Absolutely, man. You know, you got to take the loss and then just kind of go with it. So I'm trying something a little bit new today. Since I got this cool software that allows me to go out to YouTube a lot easier to kind of talk stocks and stuff like that, I thought I'd use it. And since Thursdays are normally the days I do mentoring in the Bear Bull Traders evening, Andrew normally does one during the day. I thought, why not do a little session during the day and put it out on YouTube for the folks in YouTube? Maybe even take a couple of questions from over there if anybody ends up showing up. I didn't announce this, I didn't prep this, so I'm not really expecting too many people to show up and hang out or whatever and ask questions. But I actually thought to myself, I would really, especially with all the great donations that YouTube's been doing in the super chats for autism awareness this month, for which is a really important donation. I thought, why not give them a little more value for their money since they've been doing so well for us, and I'll try and throw a Thursday out once a week to YouTube and see if it grabs any ground or if anybody ends up liking it. So we'll see if anything ends up happening. So, can anyone do me a small favor that's in the chat? Would you mind popping over to YouTube for me and just making sure the audio on the stream is coming through well? And I don't have anybody in there as I know of yet, maybe like 2 viewers or something, but I just want to make sure that the setup worked and my new screen display is working and all of that. So take a pic, and then you can either leave a comment in the YouTube chat or here in the room. Hey, nice, Marcus. Thanks. Awesome. Hey, Mark A. Seattle's in the house. How you doing? We got Stonks and Lambos. We got Brian. Hey, Marcus in the regular chat. Thank you. All right, so that's good. All right, cool. So, to everyone out there in YouTube who's probably going to watch this video maybe later, every single day at 1 p.m., I have a session that I do in the Bear Bull Traders chat room, and I do that on my training time every day at 1 p.m. Since you guys have been doing so well on the super chats, which Andrew's going to double those into a donation, and your guys are doing it for an autism this month, which is really important to me. I thought maybe I give back a little bit to the YouTube by broadcasting one of my Thursdays. So I normally do a Thursday mentoring in the evenings for our elite membership. So maybe this is an opportunity during the day, not going to be as specific because we have a lot more people, but maybe an opportunity during the day where we just get some more questions going and I can go out. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes, talk about my trading day just to show you guys what I've been up to today. Traded 2 tickers today, had 2 good wins, and then called it a day. I'm going to show you guys those, and then I'm going to basically just kind of go out to the BBT chat room. I'll also go out to the YouTube chat room. We'll just grab some questions, and we'll do this. And I'm going to hang out here. I do this an hour a day. So for the next couple of weeks, let's plan on Thursdays. I'm going to be broadcasting to YouTube, and we'll do these little sessions. If those gain traction, if I start getting some likes, and lots of participation on them, and it seems like something that you guys are liking out there in YouTube land, well, then maybe I'll convince the boss to let me keep doing it. So thanks, Banu. I appreciate that. So now what you guys can't see here is we have the BBT chat room. Thanks, Dwayne. Hey, brother. How's it going? We've got a BBT chat room, so I am going to take some questions from there in a minute. We'll talk a little bit, and then I'm going to come back out to YouTube once we've built a few people in there. And then I will take some questions from anyone who is hanging out there and still spending some time with us. So a little something fun to do on our lunch. So before I get into that, I want to show you guys what I traded today. I only traded... Oh, let me link my fundamental screen here. Bam. There we go. Let me adjust this. I just put this little layout together in about 15 minutes so that I could do this. I kind of had like a wild idea about this earlier in the day, and I was just like, let's do this. Let's have a little fun. So 2 trades today. First trade was on Ride. I know it was a $6 stock. Did you really trade that? So I traded Ride at the open with Andrew, actually. Ride did this nice little falling angel at the open, and it came back down, hit VWAP one time, came back down, hit VWAP a second time, giving me some downward tweezers. Well, Daniel, I could, but then people aren't going to see my montage, which might be... Hey, I have an idea. How about this? While I'm talking charts, I'll just drag my chart out, and then if we need to start comparing to the level 2, I'll close my chart, or move the chart back down. How's that? Does that look a little bit better? Can you see that? Hey, I'm flexible. This is your guys' time, so if you guys want me to... All right, cool. All right, so you can see here that this is pretty standard stuff here as far as the opening range patterns to play. You can kind of see we had a pretty clean thing going on here with the average, staying below the 9 and 20. We sold off a little bit here, sold off again, holding the opening price and giving us some bottom side tweezers through VWAP. It made that new high. I went long. Andrew went long almost at this exact same time. I threw my loss behind me by 5 or 10 cents just because momentum play, no need to get retested, right? So dropped in there. My stop was probably somewhere around 660, and then I got a nice pop up on this thing. Started off the day solid 2-to-1, and a little bit more up there. So started off my day solid on ride, up at about 4R by the time I was done. So, and that's real nice. You guys know I'm only looking for 3 or 4R a day, so I'm already at goal. So I decided I'd hang out and see if anything good, started to come together. And then small forces love you, brother. And then I decided I'd pop over, and I did a little bit of fun on AMD, and this was actually my better trade of the day, right here on AMD. Here we go. So AMD has been rolling traverses all day. For any of you who have followed the cam points, you guys know I talk about playing the R3 when you're looking at an inside day where you're expecting the stock to be chopped in a range, playing the inside day, so wait for it to get to an extreme. Look at the tweezers at the open here, play it short right down to S3, bumped into S3, turned around. I went long S2. Gave myself loss of my entry candle, and then it had a really, really nice pop. This is 3R grab here, 4R, and then about 6 as far as distance from entry, right? So I took a third of my position off here, so that locked me in $100. I took off half of the remaining position there for another 100. And then when this popped up here, I took off half of what was left there, and that's another 100. Notice each one of these tiers gets a little bit further because I need to do that. So I'm solid 3R here. We pull back. I add really heavy there. Loss of my entry candle on this one. And we get a nice little push off more and more in there. And I ended up netting in about another 250 by the time I was done partialing these out. So this worked out really, really nice. And then this came back down. I tried one more ad here and went out all at break even. I don't know why I thought this was going to happen. We've got the higher volume. We got a narrow bar at the top with still high volume, and then we sold. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking here. So ad not great. I think I was hoping to squeeze a little bit more, but I only had about 10% of my position left, so it wasn't really that bad. I tried it with the loss of the average. Lost the average, and done. Then this thing sold off really bad after that. So between the two trades, I find myself sitting pretty around, where am I? I'm sitting pretty somewhere around about 8R, 8.5R for the day, which is really fantastic considering I did pre-market show this morning and had to do that. So so anyway, that is my day today. I only did 2 trades. Both of them were winners, so I really had no reason to keep on going after that. So I locked montage and called it a day. Why didn't I go out at break even on the third candle? I hadn't hit a solid target yet. So I was going for 3R on this one for my first partial. And 1R was like, it was right up here. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'll show you why. Let me get my trade back up too. All right. So 1R or 2R on this was somewhere right up around here, and I got 1R, but because I ran this so narrow, right, I just couldn't break even right there. I had a feeling I would get tested. So, and it came back really, really close. So I will admit, I had nerves on this. So the reason why I didn't I didn't go to break even on this one was because I was already at 4R for the day. So I had a trade to levy on this one, and I felt really, really strong about this. We had good buy up on this one and good buying here before we moved. So I was just feeling really, really confident on this one. So I elected not to move to break even on this one. I just held it, and I just made a decision for myself. You know, at this point, I'm gonna hold this one. I think this one's gonna work. L2 on AMD was all that. There was plenty of orders to the top side that looked really good. The one thing we missed on this would have been a really nice bottoming candle, right? I mean, like a high volume candle here to really show this. But I read this big kind of like, it almost looks like it's just a giant indecision candle. I read that with the volume there as being something. And then when I had this volume come in here on this really, really narrow candle, there was a ton of buying in there. So we had tested a daily level, then we tested S3, right? Then we hammered and held above S2. Then we tested S2, went through and came back through S2. So I went long there and said, I'll give that a go. If it loses back through S2, I'm going to get out. So, and I just left it right below and like I said, my entry right here below my entry candle. So nice tight entry, got a nice little move up, made good profit there. So, you know, not nice, you know, worked out. These trades here have been working for me very, very well. And since I was, you know, I've had a good week so far, and I was already over goal for the day, and I had a little room to wiggle. I decided I would let conviction ride on that one, and I would hold it. So anyway, so what did you guys trade today? Yellow line on the charts. Okay, so the yellow line on the charts is VPOC. VPOC is the volume point of control. All right, so we're talking. We're gonna go right click here, go to your study config, and if you look at volume by price, all right, so volume by price is a huge VPA tool. I mean, volume and price analysis, volume by price kind of makes sense. So, and let me elaborate on that a little bit too. So since we're looking at volume, remember we got volume by time here, right? So your volume is lining up on a linear fashion going this way. And then here you've actually got volume by price, right? So as the price moves up and down vertically, right, we're ranging the volume each time the price is sold or bought or a transaction occurs at that price, and then we tick through that transaction records as volume, right? And what this helps us do is this helps us identify value. When you're looking at the market, one of the easiest way to figure out where value is to figure out where everyone's buying and selling. So if you can find the high points of volume at certain price levels, well, then that certainly helps you out quite a bit, right? So if you want to add that in, here's how mine's configured. If you want to take a screenshot, you're more than welcome to. So, and it's this right here is what gives you the yellow line, show point of control. Now, one last thing about point of control is a dynamic instrument, right? So we have different types of indicators, right? We have lagging indicators. We have what we like to call predictive indicators. We have live indicators, and then we have dynamic, right? Just to add in one more category. And basically a dynamic indicator is an indicator that you kind of have some more control over, right? The system's not in control of it. You're in control of it. So for instance, like even marking your own level in its own way can kind of be dynamic. But the reason why I consider this is because the more information you add to the volume by price study, you get different output, right? So if you're looking into AMD here, you start to look here, well, look, we lost this value area at 108.82. Well, if you zoom out, still value, right? Zoom out, still value. Well, if you go to the daily, value is more at like 108.18. But notice AMD There we go. Zoom in there. Look at how value has played over the past few days. Yeah, I can talk about tinfoil line, Bob. So look how value has played over the past few days. Look at it right here. We had this test here and this part on it. Then this kind of started to establish. We pushed away. We came back down and look, we found here we consolidated at this area almost the entire next day. Then the following day we tried to get away, but we got dragged right back to it, right? And then we consolidate here. We move a little higher. We try to get away from it, get dragged right back through it. This time we overreact and actually sling past it. Now, this is a really, really good advocate for the cam studies here. Camarilla pivot points. Notice the rubber band here on S4. We try to go to R3, and the rubber band, we sling all the way back, but we don't break, right? Extreme reversal off of S4, right? And AMD gets dragged right back up here. So it's really important to pay attention to value, because as you can see, what a stock is going to do is it's going to go to value and establish new value. Boom. Once it establishes new value, it's going to continuously attempt to reject it over and over again in one direction or another, and right? And that's where these S4 and R4s really help you out, because this is when you're getting into the it doesn't range, right? Notice how this top was here this day. Now that's where we find R4, right? That's very intentional, because if we go through R4 and we break out here, we're expecting this rubber band to snap, right? And so we're expecting the price to now run like it did on this day here, right? Going in search of new value. Hey, Johnny, XELA, how are you doing today? So what I've started doing, Johnny, I don't know if you just got here, we do Thursday mentoring sessions in BBT, and since we've been getting so much super chat money from you guys that we're donating to charity, I decided I'd go ahead and do mentoring sessions into YouTube as well. So just because I want to give a little attention over there, let me pop to XELA real quick, and then we'll go back and I got asked about talking about the TFL line. All right, so no, my apologies, man. Come in and bring it in. I don't mind talking about anything you want. I can turn anything into something we talk about. It is a gift and a curse. When you look at XALA, the first thing that comes into mind when I look at this chart is I think of algo driven. Okay, as I'm looking at XCLA, oh, hold on, let me put it up here. I put it on the wrong chart. All right, here we go. The first thing I really think when I'm thinking about this stock is I'm thinking that it's fairly algo driven. Right? Now, the reason I'm saying that, and I'm going to go to the 1 minute to make that easier, is look at these candles. Right? So when you see this, Johnny, one thing you can think of is that we don't have a lot of market participation here. Right? This is computer participation, and this thing is getting moved up and down, but it's almost no retail participation in this. So what that means is you're lacking a considerable catalyst. One thing to help you with your trades is to focus on stocks that have notable catalyst, which means you're going to have good order flow, right? We can tell we don't have good order flow because look at the volume. We have sudden sporadic large bursts of volume, but otherwise low candles, right? And then on the top side, as you're looking at the chart itself, look how narrow these and precise these candles are. Human beings overreact by nature. And because of that overreaction, we can expect more movement than this out of anything if human beings are really, really invested in this. So we're going to call this one, algo driven. And for me personally, last little thing to look at is the level 2 on this thing. So if you look at the level 2 on this, notice the level 2 is in balance. Big time balance, right? Every order these market makers are going to need to exchange the order flow that's in here is already right here on the book, right? There's just absolutely no reason for this stock to go anywhere other than just bouncing up and down. And because of this price action, and actually let me put spread on here because I actually like having that over what's there. We do have a tight spread, but because of the price action and the price of only 227, what will happen? Notice here how we have this big spike, and it comes in at 265,000 shares. That's the kind of stuff you can expect to happen. So you'll be long in this position thinking you're really good and you're trying to buy this support here, or maybe even you're short. And what will happen is this stock will as if I was just saying it, this stock will spontaneously just rip down through the order book, right? So, and look at that, 500,000 shares came through in one candle. There's just no way to properly hedge risk when you're trading a stock like this. I don't know if they're watching the show right now. Maybe one of the 3 people that are in the stream right now. Hey smart one, welcome to the stream. But as I was saying, look what happened. We had a large order come in. I'm going to go out a little further. Let's see that order on the tape. On the larger tape, look, 14,000 shares came through in 2 directions, in and out. Look at that, 14,000 shares in, 14,000 shares out, right? So we've got some creative stuff going on here, right? Some big shares getting, oh no, there it is, 31,787, right, at 222, right? So out of nowhere, this stock just ripped down through the order book because you had all of these large orders executed by these computer programs, right? So it just rips down through it. This is the reason why in XELA, how did I do what, Andrew? XELA is a stock that would be very, very difficult to trade on a regular basis and be consistently profitable with, right? For that very reason. All right, so there was a little bit about the TFL line. One quick, we have a this is live, ZS. So I'm gonna do a couple of these hard breaks, everyone, just because of this. So what's going on, y'all, is for everyone who just showed, my name is Thor Young. I'm a moderator at Bear Bull Traders, and on Thursdays I do what we call Thorsday. And basically what Thorsday is a mentoring session where we just randomly pull questions in and out of the chat. We also do a more intimate, for our elite membership version, every Thursday evening. That's a little bit smaller of an environment. But every day in Bear Bull Traders at 1 p.m., I do mentorship in the room. Now, since YouTube has been so awesome lately, and you guys have been giving big super chats that are going to be used to go towards a donation to autism, and autism is very near and dear to my heart because of my daughter, I thought I wanted to give back to YouTube because I was so happy. I mean, we've already got almost $500, I think, worth of donations, and Andrew's going to be doubling it. So, we've got a good chance to really generate some money for that cause. So I thought you guys are putting your money in to a cause that I appreciate. So I'm going to, try and do this a little bit. Plus, Carlos taught me how to use this fancy software, and that lets me go out to the thing. So for the next couple of weeks at least, plan on Thursday being a thing. I will keep doing this for a couple of weeks. If it ends up being a thing where I start getting, I know it's the middle of the day, so I'm not expecting a ton of people to show up, but if it ends up being a thing where people show up and it gets a little more traction, then maybe I'll just keep doing this every Thursday. So, but I really appreciate all of the super chats and all the love that YouTube's been throwing towards BBT and our charitable initiatives. So just thought we'd throw a little love back, and do that. So haha, right, Brian? Hey, the Prophet of Prophets in the main chat room. So there was a question, and we'll do this one first about the TFL. So the TFL is kind of a little bit of a BBT joke between Peter and I. But with every notable joke, there always seems to end up being some realism to it. So basically at 8 o'clock every single day, if you will, 8 a.m., there is a clearing process that happens in the market because it is important for the next business day that certain things are settled by then. What also, that's awesome, Starbucks. My daughter is level 4, so she has severe autism. She's nonverbal. And my son has Asperger's. I also have Asperger's, actually, just, really on the high side. So that's why it's such a dear, thing to my heart as far as that goes. So when that clearing process happens at 8 p.m., what ends up happening is you end up getting this minute bar. And I think anyone who's been day trading the pre-market now for a little bit knows what it looks like. It's just all of a sudden at 8 o'clock, you just kind of get this big bar that just bounces up and down and just kind of hits up and down as that happens. So Thursday night mentoring is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard for the elite members in the BBT room. Yeah, absolutely. So what Peter and I often will do, because it's associated with that process, is we'll come out and we'll mark the top and bottom of this range that gets created by this thing. And then you will be surprised throughout the day how well this range inevitably plays. So notice the top of the TFL ended up being right at R1, right? So, and then the bottom of it ended up being the dead middle of this consolidation that happened before a retest and a loss. So it's called TFL, right, for tinfoil line, right, which tinfoil hat theory, right? We've got no huge statistical data to back this up. That's why we notably call it TFL. So it is a conspiracy theory, right? But over time, what we have noticed is it provides a little bit of a range. Now, ideally for me, if you're going to pick some levels to really go for, just out there in YouTube land, go for the big four. All right, the big four levels, if you're just getting into trading and you're looking to do something easy that you can get some easy trades are going to be pre-market low, the open price, pre-market low, and as Jared states, the king of all levels, previous day close. You can trade, and I think Jared's proven this, and I'm kind of a believer, you can trade previous day's close pretty much all day, every day on any stock that's approaching it. I mean, it's very, very interesting to see how that line in the sand gets drawn. Notice I use Camarilla points, so you notice my R3 sits just above this, but notice the tweezers on AMD earlier in the day showing the selling pressure. The next day it comes up here, and it basically does a nice little head and shoulders up here before it goes down. But notice what happens when it finally rejects hard previous day's close. This thing goes on a big run all the way down to S4. Right, so that is a line in the sand that is often the big break. But notice failure of pre-market high was a really good trade. Failure of opening price could have been a good trade in both time frames, right? Or holding of S3 daily level, right? Or loss of pre-market low here. I mean, there are tons of opportunities off of these levels to take trades on this stock. That's why there's really no one way that works, right? Find a method of trading that works for you, that you like. Pick a level that you like, that you feel good with, and then go with it. JWM doing a volume event bounce. Let's check it out. Do I have this over here already? Yeah, I do, because I watched it yesterday. So JWM, they're calling out volume. So JWM is starting to squeeze a little bit. So I'm going to shrink this chart a little bit because I want to be able to see the tapes on what's going on here, since the precision of the chart isn't quite as crucial. So JWN on our daily. So the two main charts that I use are on two opposite ends of the spectrum. I use a minute chart and a daily chart, right? I want to kind of have an idea of where we're going to go today, and then I want to know when can I get in right now, right? So I kind of have both ends of the spectrum here. So what we find here is, we had this pretty critical level marked on JWN. Today we find ourselves well below that and selling. JWN came down here. It looks like it found some value near 880, but nothing substantial. Better value here at 2909. So the question is what is it going to do today? And our level 2 is going to help us out with that. All right, so right now JWN is looking very empty on the bid side. So it really makes sense why we're starting to squeeze right now. So notice to the bid side on the bottom, when I scrolled down on my level 2, there were no large orders highlighted, right? Nothing big to the downside. What this means is that our shorts are covering, right? There are no orders down here on the chart, which means there is no downward move for our market makers to run on the ladder. But that also shows that the shorts are now unconfident, right? If there were orders down here, shorts would be still putting profit orders out, but they're not. right? They're coming in up here at the price, they're taking cover, and now we're actually getting orders to the top side. What does that show you? That shows you that the bulls are now involved, right? We now have bidders that are coming in and they're buying. Look at the large tape. We've got large green orders coming in on the tape, right? Our larger participants are buying and they're putting profit target orders up above to help encourage the market maker to continue to run, right? So good call on JWN. I hope you got a piece of that as that crossed. Look at the classic signals we like to use, right? New 5-minute high would have been a really good entry. So we have indecision here, right? We make our new 5-minute high after the open over the body here. That would have given us probably a solid new 1-minute high somewhere in here you could have played. Even if you played the loss of the low, you're already sitting at 2-1 and having a pretty good time with this reversal. So, and because of the ask and the way it looks, I think this thing can continue to squeeze. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on this thing now. It depends, Matthias. So it depends on how you want to play it. In this instance, I would have used the body wick because my new signal, once this hammer hit, we had indecision, this, and broke. I would have been in here somewhere right around here with the loss of the low. I wouldn't have waited all the way till 86, which would have been way up here. However, if you're being a little bit, a little bit safer and you wanted to take a little bit less aggressive trade, the full new 5-minute high is perfectly fine on this one, right? You're already at 1R if that's the case, so you move to break even. If this fails and comes back through, you get out and wait for a tighter setup. If this continues to make new highs and works, then you're just holding for 2R, and it's all good. Thor recently noticed that you can do cam points based on the day in DOS. Yes. So I am using cam points on my daily chart in general when I'm just using my daily. For the trick that I like to use is for data config. For my time frame range, I like to use 5 years, and that seems to be working really well for me. So if you're gonna add, you got your daily here. When I do my daily, I use the data range, and I like to use the 5-year data range. It pulls a lot of data, but it makes them work. And the cam points, they run month to month. So it gives you, let me pop this out real quick because I have cam points on my other chart. Cam points here, you can see here like on AMD, right? The cam points will run month to month. So notice how AMD, right, started a breakout in August and went right through R4 and then stuffed R4 on this week, right? And then sold all the way back down after that. So, I mean, the cams, look at this, right down to S4. Rubber band pulled on the daily, and this thing slingshot right through. Once it broke R4, new transition, right, straight up. Good stuff. Love my cam points. So when I say cam points for YouTube, I'm talking Camarilla pivot points. Hey Brian, thanks buddy for covering some of the YouTube chat for me. I really appreciate that. Thor, can you please see into mRNA? I have shorted still open position, if it please. Yeah, sure, Rosie. Before I really comment directly on this, keep in mind, obviously, since I'm analyzing your trade and your chart, I'm going to kind of give you my opinion. Obviously, this is not necessarily a recommendation for whether you should hold a position or cut a position. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. You need to make your own decisions, and if that decision is the same as mine and it's wrong, I'm not responsible for it. But anyway, every member of the chat has to sign that disclaimer before they come in. I just thought I'd throw it out there now. But on mRNA is a solid trading stock, and it has been in a good run for a while. But I can see why you would be short biased in it, in the fact that it moved up through 500. Once it got up to around 500, this thing came back and then started to consolidate. The problem mRNA has had as a trading stock lately is because of that consolidation, this stock has been trading at value. So when I use this 15-minute chart, let me see if my face will stay on top of it when I do this. Excellent, it does. Great, I love layering. Okay, so one thing you'll notice if you zoom out, let's just go with an hour chart just to make it a little easier. Notice what I'm talking about when I talk about value. All right, so VPOC is value, right? Notice, or at least perception of value in the broader market here, right? Notice how we go here and we attempt to move away from value. We come right back. We attempt to move away. We come right back. We attempt to move away. We consolidate for the move, and then boom, we run. But what happens when things don't work out, right? What happens when we don't get where we want to go? Right back to value, right? We just drag and bring this thing right back to value, no problem. And where do we find ourselves now? Trying to go lower than value, right back to value. Trying to go above value, right back to value. Trying to go below value, right back to value. Trying to go away from value, right back to value. This is how Camarilla concepts work. This is the rubber band, right? The pull of value. When the stock tries to get away from value in this attempt to move to higher value, right, you're going to push away from it and it snaps back. If it can't get away, it comes back. If it can't get away, it comes back. And it does that over and over and over again until it doesn't, right? And that's where those pivots really help you out, because they help you gauge that when it doesn't, right? So, hey, thanks, Johnny. I really appreciate that, man. I'm glad you tuned in today. Today's the first time you've tuned into the channel. Well, just do me a favor, man. Throw me a like and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get notified when I bring new stuff out there. That's all I need from you, man. So, but I really, really appreciate the kind words. So as you can see, we're always getting dragged back to value. So as you can see here, what we find ourselves at now today is we kind of chopped this area. Now we're trying to push up a little bit again. So, but we kind of have this clear spot, and this would be the spot I'm kind of would be worried about, right? Like 405. If this candle you're in with indecision breaks through 405 and starts to head north, then that's probably going to be the time frame that you're the most concerned with. Right now, you've got R3, and I like the volume here for your short, right? And I actually do like your short, so I'm not necessarily encouraging you to cut it. I like that we had high volume at R3 here. We tried to push again. We ran into high volume again when we came up there. We tried to push through, and when we tried breaking through this time, we got no volume, which that's really interesting because that showed no bull stepped in to help support. Now we find ourselves back to value, and we're trying to rally away, this time rallying away on low and declining volume. Let me get this chart a little bit bigger. I think that's too small. So look at this. So I think your short's actually still good, at least for the short term. I'm reading it well. So so what you can see here, again, what I'm saying is we try to go away from value. We get high volume here. That shows selling, right, up at this top level. Just because this is green, right, and this is really hard for everyone, just because this is green does not mean this candle indicates buying. All the green means is that it opened lower and closed higher. If shorts were covering that whole time, it's still green, right? You could be running into high selling. That has nothing to do with it. That's why you need the tape, right? Charts don't do it all. You need tape, and you need L2 because you need to know what's going on. What made that turn into a green bar? Price action. What made the price action happen? Volume and tape, right? So without that, you don't get any help. So we tried here, we sell here, we push up here, we press again, high volume, showing more selling, and then we push again. And like I said, this time we push, but when we push, nothing happens, right? And that's a real big sign that you did not, you've got one attempt with selling, one attempt selling, next time no selling, right? This time you push back, and as you push back, you actually get lower declining volume, right? That to me looks like a bull trap, right? And I think this thing's going to sell back down to VWAP. So that's what I would think just by reading just the VPA that I'm seeing right now. So, you know, obviously the next candle can change everything, but that's what mRNA looks like to me. I'm going to check my mirrors real quick. Volume looked good. Level 2, unfortunately for mRNA, because good point out by the room, we have low volume today. So we're not really moving, but let's just hang out a little bit and see what we do. Yeah, Rosie, exactly, Rosie. You're 100% right. Green candle, big volume, sat sell. Right, exactly. So and that's kind of what I'm seeing that as, right? So thank you, Mark, for reposting that. So Raj, I don't use the central pivot very much. So when I'm trading using Camarilla points, Camarilla points don't actually calculate the central pivot. So if you notice here, if I go to study config and I go to pivot points, right? Notice what happens. Even if I check mark this and I put it in there, it's not there, right? So if you want the central pivot range, you actually have to, oops, wrong button. You actually have to come out to study config, go to pivot point, and you need to change it. You got to uncheck Camarilla pivot points, right? If you uncheck that, then it'll draw you a pivot line, right? But then we're not doing Camarilla, so no dice. So, but I do not use that. So there was a question about this the other day. So these are coded gray, right? And these are coded gray because they're a gray area for me. Normally when stocks are in this range, they chop, right? So what I'm looking for when I trade is I'm looking for the stock to move low in the range down to here near S3 so I can buy if it's going to be choppy for the move back up to R3, right? Or I'm going to wait like like Rosie did here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for it to get up somewhere near around R3, right? And if it looks like it's starting to sell at R3, then I'm going to sell at R3 as well, right, for that move down. So if that occurs. All right, so let's go back and check. Ride still selling down now? Let's see, let me pop this back on here. Let's go over and look at some other stuff. SPRT's in play again. Yeah, look at this thing, man. What a fun one. So look at SPRT on the daily. SPRT has just been great on the daily chart. I mean, you're talking about moving from this nice consolidated range here, and then it's been on a straight tear ever since support.com got some better stuff going on. And from $8, now we find ourselves at 18. Really nice. If you look over here to the level 2, notice we do have some bid on it, but really notice we've got like 82 here. If you go down way down here, 50, that's not overly impressive. But if you come up here, look right near the price, 1750, 168 lot. That's worth paying attention to. 109 above that, 211 above that at 18, right? So we've definitely got better topside ladder on the level 2 for support.com. So I'm going to remain bullish on support.com for the short term. We are on an R4 breakout. So if you're using cam strategies, what we like to do, remember we're talking about the rubber band snapping. That's like our big theme for today. Here's the rubber band in full action. We try and get away. We hit the rubber band. It gets dragged back down. We try to get away. Rubber band again. Drag back down. Try to get away. Rubber band drags it all the way back down into the central part of the pivot range, right? And then we finally get back to R4 and we finally snap it. And now we're going, right? Now we're trying to go and search for new value. Now notice the difference for anyone who wants to know when that moment's coming. Look at the volume. Let's go VPA on this one. Look at the volume during this consolidation range. Look how low the average volume is, right? Look what happens when it's time to go. This is where you lose money. This is where you make money, right? Trying to trade in here is where you're going to get caught in very imprecise, wicky, choppy up and down moves where you're going to frustrate yourself, taking 1R gains and stops, not ever making it. Wait for the volume. Here's the volume. There goes the price, right? Without this, this will not happen, right? If you got a rally like this with no volume, don't trade it because you're getting trapped, right? So support.com has the volume. It has the ladder. So it's having fun with it right now. All right, look, right up to that 1750 order, right into it. Boom. Gone. 1750 order taken out. Look at that. Real nice move. Drawn right to it like a magnet. Right? So now we're going to pop up here. Let's see if it runs 1716, 1775. If it manages to run those, then we'll start reevaluating, right, and see what it starts to look like. VPOC, Fast Joe, volume point of control, right, my friend? I'll throw it up here, right here. Let me get you a screenshot. I've done a webinar on it for BBT. So if you want to know more about volume indicators, hit my VPR webinar. I'm not saying it'll change your life, but it might. I got that up there, so if you want to go ahead and screenshot that, then you can. Thanks, Rosie. What does it mean when a stock makes a new 1 or 5 minute low? So, light of my life, back to YouTube here. Light of my life. So when I stock trade, and if I do more of these and you kind of follow me, you'll learn a lot more about this, because every trade I take has it. I break my trades into 3 fundamental concepts: where, when, and how. Right? Where I'm looking for a trade, when I'm taking the trade, and how I'm managing the trade. Right? So part of that process is risk management, right? And in order for risk management to be really effective, you need to know when you're getting in, and you need to know exactly where you're getting out, and you need to know exactly how much you're risking in that process when it happens, right? So one of the reasons I like using the new 5-minute high for reversals is because that's a really strong indicator. Lots of algos trip at the new 5-minute high, but what you're seeing is that the market has hit a support or resistance level, and then it's bought up and made that new critical high. And what that does is it lets you go long at the new 5-minute high, and then you can use your stop loss below the 5-minute. Think about indecision to indecision, right? If your breakout fails and then comes all the way back through and then loses indecision in the other way, if anything, you're at value and it's chopping and not doing very well at all, so you might as well cut it anyway, right? Because you're obviously just not in at the right time. So better to cut out of the position rather, wait a few minutes and then get back in when it makes a little bit more sense, and you can tighten up your risk management a little bit rather than just kind of letting it hole in there. So yeah, so that's kind of what I mean by the new 1 or the 5-minute low. It's a part of my risk management strategy. Once it bottoms, I like to wait for that new 5-minute high, right? Or at minimum a new 1-minute high, but most often for big trend reversals, I like a full new 5-minute high. I go long, I use the 5-minute low, set a 2-to-1 order and let that thing roll, right? I noticed that you don't include pre and post market data for your pivot points. Does it make the difference? Study config pivot. What? That was the wrong one. So I do include pre and post market data. So it's not check marked. So if you check mark it, it excludes it, and you got to be careful there because their verbiage is a little off. But it says calculate pivot points without using pre and post market data, even if pre and post market data is displaying. Right? So I actually am including it, and the reason why I am including it is because 2 out of my 4 favorite levels to intraday trade are pre-market high and pre-market low. So, and I assume those are the levels that are most likely being included in those. Speaking of levels, one of the levels we had marked on Ride just came into play. So in the pre-market show today, I did a little analyst in the pre-market show, and look what I did here, y'all. I marked value during the pre-market right here at 635 because I wanted to see, if Ride and this is on video, so if you don't believe me, go to the pre-market show and watch. I said one of the levels I'm going to look for is if this thing starts to sell, I'm going to look for it to come all the way back to value and then bounce. This is what I'm talking about. Now that you see value on the daily, look what happens. Did all of this and we've sold all the way right back down to daily value. And now as we approach daily value, we're starting to get volume spikes as we come down into daily value. Right now, the one thing I don't like, level 2 on Ride, although congested because it's a cheap stock. And when I say cheap, I just mean inexpensive. You can see we still have a ton of weight on the downside ladder. So this thing might stay in here and chop around and bounce a little bit and then launch. But it'll be interesting to see how well this daily value area looks. Now, even if you're not trading off of that, remember when you're taking a trade in around 10 o'clock, this can be your target, right? If the rubber band doesn't snap and it drags back, you're going to value. It pulled back to value on the daily, and then it pulled, or value on the 1 minute, and then it pulled back to value on the daily, right? And you can see, and this is how stocks operate. This is what they do. This isn't like some weird fluke thing. You can go chart to chart to chart. Every single chart that's in play that has high market participation will look exactly like this. How far back on the daily chart do you zoom out? How many days to find value? Generically, value on the daily chart, because I'm calculating it, often kind of stays right in a specific area. But again, VPOC is dynamic. So for me, value is good. So notice here, we can mark this both directions. Notice value at 635 here. Notice when we zoom out, we have value up here at around 1150. Right, or 1125 maybe, right? And look what happened. Let me pop out my daily chart. So we have value here, but look, if we come in here, we actually get value here. And notice, right, this is where we played. So if this stock goes into a hard rally, look at the volume coming in on this thing, right? If this stock goes into a hard rally, and today's might not be that day, right? We've got the big volume. We might have institutions coming in here. So we're getting retails trapped and squeezed, or sorry, trapped and slammed, while institutions buy in for a bigger move if something's actually really playing on it. I think, what was Rides? No, not necessarily liquidity, OTC. When I mean value, I just mean high transaction areas. There doesn't necessarily still need to be visible liquidity available at that level, although it most often is, just because longer term time often puts in. But in this instance, I just mean transaction volume. But what you can see is we pulled back here and here. So if we go into a hard rally, because I think they had like a new CFO appointed or CEO or something happened with them. So if for some reason this decided to start squeezing, that would be the area you would be looking at to squeeze to for $11. That's the last place where this thing really found solid value, right? And those are the kind of things we're looking for, at least on the short term. Sometimes I use the 1 minute, Andrew. It just depends on what I'm reading, right? If I come down and I see a really obvious response of the market at a level, right, and I see bidding coming in here, and I can say to myself, if it goes past this 1 minute low, I want to get out, then I'll use the 1 minute high, right? Because it's really all about where I need to stop out. If I know where I need to stop out, I don't care if that's a 2-cent spread or a 20-cent spread. That's the level that I'm going to stop out at if we lose it, right? If it holds, supports, and comes back up, I'll get long again, or short, depending on which direction I'm going, and use the level again, right? But it's once the level, it's just kind of like up there with bag holding in a weird way. Like once the level is tested and busted, you don't know if it's going to squeeze back up or dump. Either way, you know that your strategy that you're using is invalidated, so you might as well just get out, right, and play it again. So let's see here. Light, an example of one? Sure. Let's go random ticker DKNG. I have not looked at DKNG at all today, so I will use DKNG because that I just want to pull something random. All right, so notice DKNG here starts to sell off at the open. Notice we come up into the high, we hit volume into this area. Previous day close is the level, right? Previous day's close is the level right here. And you'll notice that we set this really nice tight level right at previous day's close. Now, if I move to a 5-minute chart, right, what you'll now see is that we squeeze up, we move up, and we come down, and then we lose this level right here, this 5-minute low, right? You lose that 5-minute low, you go short at the 5-minute low, you use the 5-minute high as your risk, right? And that gives you, it's pretty wide on DKNG, but DKNG can move. That gives you your risk tolerance right there, right? And then you move, and that would easily be 3-to-1, 4-to-1 move, down to S4. Now, let's say we get down to S4 and you want to do the same thing. Notice how we made the new sell, right? You come down here, you get indecision on high volume, right? We don't quite get the new 5-minute high yet, but then we get it here, right? So you go long here, right? New 5-minute high. This one's up to you. For me personally, I like using my entry candle, and it helps me because if this makes a new 5-minute low, right, I'm going to get out. So in this instance, when I'm using a new 5-minute high, I'm using a new 5-minute high. So you could either use this one here, right, because you've sold and you've made a new 5-minute high, or you can use this 5-minute high. Either one would work. Actually, let me be more specific. This is the one I would have used. We have the indecision. We make a 5-minute. I don't get a new 5-minute high, so I wouldn't have been able to go long yet. It pulled back, it held, and then it made a new 5-minute high over that one. So I would have went long right there. And in this instance, I would have used a new 5-minute low, right? So I would have had that tight of a risk, and you can see it held well and pulled off. If that is too aggressive for you, which for me, it's not, it works for me, but for you, if it's too aggressive, then you can use low of day or 5-minute low on the candle that you're using the 5-minute high. Either one of those in this instance would have worked pretty quick easily. It's just after you get a better and better feel for the market, you'll see how to time these. You got the higher volume, we press down, we go. Probably had good buying on the tape going there, and then we squeezed up, got a little bit there. So and that's really how I play those. So I don't do it on every single one, but I do. Haha, thanks, Wilbeing. I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead. It is 1:58, so I just want to thank everyone for coming by and checking out the YouTube chat. Because of all of the kind donations that have been coming from the Super Chats, I've decided that I want to do some Thursday mentoring for everybody, and I'm going to be doing that. I figure I'll do it for at least another week or two. If we start to get a little following and we start to get a little participation here and you guys are really enjoying it, then what I'll do is I'll start doing it every Thursday. Because if we can bring value to it and it's something you guys like, I'm sure I can convince Andrew to let me stream out my time during Thursdays. What's important to me is I appreciate all of you giving to the BBT's initiatives for autism charity. I want to make sure that I give back to the room a little bit for you all. So in the meantime, I hope everybody had a great trading day. Please take a moment to like this particular video. If you can, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. Then you'll get notified when I have more videos coming out for you in the near future. Once again, I'll be back on next Thursday for all of you in YouTube land. I'm still going to be running the pre-market show for the next probably week while Carlos is enjoying having his new little baby girl, Amanda, and she's so cute. So I will see all of you guys later, guys and gals out there later. Have a great day, and as always, y'all, keep it green. Thanks.